Howdy, this is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller, and today it is Saturday, November 16th, 2024, and I wish you a very, very, very happy have a party with your bear day. Today's show is, of course, exclusively presented by College Basketball Analytics. You can go to cbbanalytics.com, sign up for a free account, or you can sign up for a paid account using the code SHOTT, that's SCHOTT, SHOTT, to get an entire month free for access to stats that I used just mere minutes ago to get ready for today's show. You can use those stats for maybe some betting intel, and of course, you can use those stats for your general enjoyment and knowledge of college basketball. Today's show, well, we've got, first of all, a wide range, varying opinions from fans on Ohio State from this game. It's my job to wade through the loud noises, the voices, those already with the pitchforks, and bring some reason to Ohio State basketball, Buckeye Nation. And that's what I intend to do today. Look, Ohio State was bound to have a game like this. If you listen to this show, you know exactly that. So it shouldn't be a surprise based on this matchup that Ohio State had trouble getting things going and ended up losing. Regardless, we're not thrilled with the result. Today, we will recap the game. We will go through our biggest takeaways as well. And I'm going to help you understand how big of a deal is this game. Before we get started, I, of course, do have to ask, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Many people think, oh, he must not be talking to me. I'm probably already subscribed. Well, are you? First of all. And second of all, I am talking to you. If you're not subscribed, please do subscribe on YouTube if that's where you're watching. If you're on podcast platform, subscribe there as well. All this does is bring episodes to you. That's it. It's completely free. You'll get episodes brought to you when they come out, and you can choose from there if you'd like to listen or not. And follow on Twitter and on Instagram at The Shop Pod, and you can even like and follow on Facebook as well. And tell your friends about the show. That would be amazing, in my opinion. So this was a late game, another 9 o'clock start for a guy like me who has an early bedtime because I like to get up early. Sue me. Sorry, that's who I am as a person. I receive from my special iPhone, who knows way more about me than probably anyone and way more than it should know about me. Hey, bedtime reminder, 8:50 p.m. It's a bedtime reminder because you got to go to bed in a half hour. No, I got to watch Ohio State play. So I was thinking about, do we go live last night? Do we just record and get an episode up? And about 10 minutes through that second half, oh man, it was tough. I was becoming dangerously close to dozing. I may or may not have set a timer for 3 minutes during a commercial break just so I could rest my eyes for a little bit. It wasn't working out, so we had to get some sleep and get ready this morning. I'm on no coffee, by the way. No coffee. I am on water, though, which I will sip now. Refreshing. Wish I had a straw to sip out of, but that's neither here nor there. All that to say, we're talking on Saturday morning about Ohio State basketball. So look, okay, this game brought in the football fans, and that's fine. We welcome the football fans. If you're a football fan first, thank you for being here on this show. This show was created because of you, because there's so many football fans out there. Everyone is covering Ohio State football. No one's doing Ohio State basketball. We do Ohio State basketball only here. But that said, some people coming in, classic Ohio State, losing big games, why they let go of Chris Holtmann if they're just going to do the same thing. This team sucks, so on and so forth. This team doesn't suck, but this is a bad performance for Ohio State. So we should probably get into that right now. Stack these papers. It's not quite as healthy as a stack as maybe if you've heard before, but it is a stack nonetheless. So Ohio State loses, the number 21 ranked team in the nation, loses to the number 23 ranked team in the nation, 78 to 64. Do we really care about the AP poll? No. unless Ohio State is ranked. This week, Ohio State gets ranked. Of course, we tweet about it, and we're happy. Ohio State will not be ranked most likely after this week, and that is okay. The AP poll does not matter. There are teams ranked in the AP poll that are outside the top freaking 60 in Ken Palm. What are we doing, AP? What are we doing? We're scanning box scores. That's what we're doing. So, Ohio State loses 78-64. Never got things going in this one. Ohio State committed 24 fouls in this game, sending Texas A&M to the free throw line, a grand total of 40 on the dot. 40 times did Texas A&M get free throws up in this one. Ohio State shot 33.9% from the field and 26.2% from deep. Not a recipe for success, especially when you send a team to the free throw line 40 times. Texas A&M had 16 second chance points. If you listen to the show, if you watch the show, if you're aware of Texas A&M as a basketball team, you know second chance points, that's a place where they will get you. They only had 5 second chance points in the first half, so Ohio State contained them pretty well in that regard. 5 offensive rebounds in the first half. They had 6 second chance points in the first half and 4 paint points in the first half. You go into halftime, and Ohio State, as bad of a game as that was in the first 20 minutes, the Buckeyes go into halftime saying, I really don't know how, and I guess I could go into the numbers to figure it out, but somehow we're in this game, and we played awful. Offensively, we were really, really bad, and yet we were still in this game. So there was still some hope for Ohio State at halftime that, hey, look, we played a bad half, but we limited Texas A&M in spots that we needed to limit them, and we've got a chance to win this game in the second half. However, that first half again, I mean, Bruce Thornton made a 90 seconds in this game to go up 3-0. The game was locked at 3-0 for a while and then locked at 3-3 for a while because it was, as predicted on this show, a slugfest of a game. Buckeyes would go scoreless, not like field goal-less. Not we make some free throws, we just can't hit a field goal. Literally did not score a point for the next 6 minutes after Bruce Thornton's 3. My goodness. At one point in the first half, we saw Devin Royal, John Mobley Jr., Michi Johnson, Aaron Bradshaw, and Micah Parrish all combine 0 of 12 from deep. That was more than halfway through the first half. And the offense simply was not working. Ohio State's offense looked like it was an open gym in the summer where William Buford and D'Angelo Russell come back to play with Ohio State. And we're just playing, right? We're just playing some basketball. It's the summer, trying to get the work in, trying to get the cardio in, all those different types of things. And on the other side, Texas A&M they welcomed it with their buzzsaw. They welcomed the offense into that buzzsaw and destroyed them. And then individually, it wasn't really a great performance for anyone. Bruce Thornton shot well technically, but he only got 6 field goal attempts up. He was 3 of 6, scored 15 points. And this one had 4 assists, had 2 steals. Ohio State in total had 10 steals in this game compared to Texas A&M only having 3. Outside of that, Michi Johnson, 6 points. Not great. Micah Parrish, 10 points. I guess you'll take that. John Mobley Jr., another productive output for him with 13 points. Speaking of John Mobley Jr., he's had 2 views from the Shop podcast, game balls, 2 of 2. No game balls and losses. Sorry. Individually, just not a great performance for Ohio State. You look at Aaron Bradshaw, only 7 points. Sean Stewart had 1 point, didn't make a field goal in this one. Quez Glover was a little bit of a bright spot with 6 points in this one. He shot 2 of 4 from the field. Some kind of vintage Quez Glover types of shots going in for the Buckeyes, but overall, individually, they did not look great. On the other side, Wade Taylor scores 15 points. He does what he normally does. Henry Coleman with 12 points as well. Texas A&M only had 4 blocks in this game. That was another spot where they were really strong defensively. So some places where Texas A&M is really, really good, it still didn't matter for Ohio State. They could not get the job done. So let's get into some takeaways here. This show is sponsored by CBB Analytics. Go to cbbanalytics.com. You can sign up for a free account or, of course, sign up for a paid account. Use the code SHOT. Get a month free. We thank them for sponsoring today's show. So takeaways in this one, Ohio State, first of all, was never going to go 31-0. You wouldn't think it needs to be said, even amongst this fan base. You wouldn't think that really needs to be said, but apparently it does. Ohio State was bound to lose a game at some point. I thought they were going to lose to Texas. I thought they were going to win this game, And I was wrong on each instance, but the fact was Ohio State had Texas, Texas A&M, Pitt, Kentucky, Auburn, all in the non-conference. The Buckeyes were not going to make it to December, most likely undefeated, and certainly not through January undefeated. We ran the numbers here on this podcast. Ohio State had I think, less than 4% chance to go undefeated against all of those teams. It wasn't going to happen. Okay. So, first of all, Ohio State was never going to go 31-0. Apparently, that needs to be spoken into the fan base. Ohio State is going to lose a game, and that's normal. Guess who else has lost games this year? North Carolina. North Carolina lost to Kansas. Duke lost to Kentucky. Duke, a much better talent roster than Ohio State. Kentucky, way more question marks than Texas A&M has going into this season. And Duke still lost before Ohio State. Houston lost to Auburn. Somehow, Houston lost to Auburn on that night where Auburn had to redirect its plane. Baylor. And also, let's talk about that for a second. So if you are running into a situation where there's a fight on a plane, why do we have to turn the plane around? What is that going to do? We're going to land the plane and say, all right, guys, like hug it out. Like, just continue on your route. You heard on the transcript that the pilot said, hey, look, flight deck, it's contained. We're all good here in the cockpit. Just keep flying, man. Why'd you stop? Why'd you turn around? Made a much bigger deal than it needed to be, in my opinion. But I don't know. I'm not a pilot. Baylor has lost to Gonzaga. That happened on night 1 of the year, and Arkansas has lost to Baylor. So a lot of really good teams coming into the season have already lost. Do those fan bases melt down when they lose to good teams? Probably at some point, but my goodness, folks, it's one game. Ohio State did lose. Ohio State did look really bad. They did allow 40 free throw attempts to go up against them, but good teams can have bad games. And sometimes bad teams have good games. Texas A&M isn't a bad team. They're a really good team. They played a fine game tonight. Ohio State did not play a good game, but they are still a good team. And one bad game doesn't change that. So a lot of fans right now saying that this team sucks. A lot of fans right now saying that this is the reincarnate of Chris Holtmann is Jake Diebler. You recruit and you get some good players and there's some hype, but you still lose. Whatever. It's not. Is it a huge deal? Yeah, we'll talk about some parts of this that are concerning for the future. But Ohio State was never going to go 31-0. Would you rather them lose to Texas A&M, or would you rather them lose here in a few games to Evansville or Campbell? Probably Texas A&M. So I think we need to relax on the outtakes that are just saying, hey, we suck. Ohio State doesn't suck. Let's relax. All right, second takeaway. A game like this was bound to happen. I said this at the start of the show. If you listen to this show, my one major concern now that we are one game into the season and then 2 games into the season was what happens when Ohio State is ice cold from deep, when they cannot get a shot to fall. I think I have like a fuzzy in my mouth. That threat has been neutralized. Ohio State was bound to have a game like this. They were shooting 48% from deep through the first 2 games. That's historic. That is, if a team ever shoots like that for an entire season, they're going to win the national title, and it won't be particularly close. That's a phrase that is used way too often, but that would be true in this case. If you shoot 48% over a season from deep, even from the field, you're going to be a very, very good team, and you'll win a title. This was going to happen, and Texas A&M was the perfect storm. So if you remember the preview, I went into this saying, hey, I would project a 5.5 point spread for Texas A&M. 5.5 points would Texas A&M be favored, and guess what? That's the number that we saw. And even though that number came out, I picked Ohio State to win. I thought that they, in the front court, would be able to figure things out against Texas A&M, but this was not a banger bet. And I even said it in a tweet with some final thoughts last night before the game of how this game could go and a reason why I was not going to qualify this as a banger bet. And also, I think the total was 147.5. That's exactly what we said on this show that the total would be. Maybe there's something here to this Views on the Shot betting model platform type of thing. Still need someone to give me a nickname for that. Please, I'm begging you. It's got to roll off the tongue too. So, all that said, the fear in this one was that Ohio State was going up against a Texas A&M team that is front court centric, that scores in the paint like no other, that offensive rebounds like no other, and that scores second chance points like no other. That is Texas A&M. In a set offense, they might not be great, but they can rebound the heck out of the ball, and then they can find someone to get a shot up and score on that second chance. And outside of that, too, Texas A&M, a slowly paced team. I wonder if I can find the pace. What was the pace in this game? Let's see. Please pause just for a second. The pace in this game was 64.6. That's really, really, really slow. And that's exactly where Texas A&M wants to be. The pace 64.6, Texas A&M's pace 66.8. That's low. That's not a lot of possessions in a game. So with that being the case for Ohio State, they didn't get to dictate tempo and they didn't get to go out and run. And that's what they like to do. And you're playing a team that extends its pressure defensively. The guards of Texas A&M not afraid to go out and defend Bruce Thornton and John Mobley Jr., who looked very uncomfortable to start this game as well, and Michi Johnson and all of that. So this was the perfect storm, and that Ohio State hadn't played a game yet in which it couldn't score from the behind the 3-point line, and they're going to play a team that was really, really strong in the front court. This was strength on strength, not the same strengths. Ohio State's backcourt strength and shooting strength and running up and down the floor strength against Texas A&M's front court strength and offensive rebounding and paint production and slowing the pace down to a snail's pace. And that's how you get to a 15-5 score with 10 minutes left in the first half. Really, really low scoring was that game, especially in the first half to start. That's what happened. And that was a perfect storm. And that's where Ohio State ran into the Texas A&M buzzsaw. My only question, what happens when you have an off night shooting? Ohio State answered, you lose. And that's what happened in this one. The front court is still not living up to its billing early on. This was a concern I had coming into the season. Yeah, you've got two former McDonald's All-Americans, former 5-stars. You return Evan Mahaffey. That's great. Devin Royal looks like he's got some promise heading into his sophomore season. But I think Ohio State is really searching for who it can trust in the front court, especially looking at Aaron Bradshaw. I think coming into this one, there were question marks. There were concerns about how he was going to play against a physical front court in Texas A&M. And I think he continues to be a question mark. 7 points in this one, 3 of 10 from the field. He was 0 of 3 from behind the 3-point line, and he committed 3 fouls. Sean Stewart, 1 point, no field goals made. And Devin Royal, he had 9 rebounds, 5 of them on the offensive glass. That's fantastic. But he only had 4 points, and he missed every 3-pointer that he attempted. Ohio State, in order to advance through the NCAA tournament to a point where you can be really, really proud of them, which would probably be at this point, I don't know, a Sweet 16 run, Ohio State needs to figure out how to win when they cannot make 3-pointers. When the triples don't fall, what do you go to in order to win? And fast break points are another thing that I expected more out of for Ohio State. In this one, they had 5 fast break points in this game against Texas A&M. That obviously is awful, and they're averaging 2.3 fast break points per game this season. That is 3rd percentile, and let's figure out where that simply ranks. In the Big Ten, that would rank 18th. They are last in the Big Ten in fast break points per game. And in all of Division I, they are 355th out of 390 some teams, I believe. So that's not going to get the job done. But where are you going to go? At this point, we don't know. It's 3-pointers or bust. And if you're good, if you're really consistent at shooting the 3, that's fine. That's not a huge issue. Ohio State is not going to be really, really good at shooting 3s every single game this year. That was a concern coming into the season was, hey, Bruce Thornton was really good his freshman year, but when he had to shoot more in his sophomore year, he wasn't as good. Michi Johnson, 32% lifetime 3-point shooter. Micah Parrish has had some good years, some bad years. Quez Glover, some good years, some bad years. And on it goes, all the way down to guys like Devin Royal. Devin Royal can't, we'll talk about shot quality. I'm not going to get into that now. We've got some guys shooting as many 3s as they are who haven't proved it yet. You can't have that. Ohio State also came out flat in this one. That's a third takeaway in this one. The energy wasn't there. You save for Colin White and Braylon Nash, who are on the bench waving towels and standing up, raising their hands on defense. And when a 3 goes up, they're standing up and they're putting the 3 fingers up. And they constantly, I love watching those guys on the bench. You love to see it. They're maybe Joey Lane prodigies or something like that. Shout out Joey Lane, friend of the show. Regardless, this team came out really flat. You're tied at 3 for several minutes to start this game. You get down 15-5 and 18-5 and maybe at some point 20-5 or something like that, and you just see no energy. Solomon Washington clocks Aaron Bradshaw in the jaw, face, head region of his body. There's not really any reaction. There wasn't really a chance for anyone to react because everyone looking away from the play going toward the Texas A&M bucket, but you have a chance to review it. Let's not act like there wasn't replays being played throughout the arena as the review, which took, I don't know, 15 minutes. I could have taken a nap then, I guess, if I wanted to. You go through that review and you have the chance to see it. I'm sure maybe that fires the team up because it's nothing. It's not a flagrant one. It's not a flagrant two. Solomon Washington not ejected. On the other side, Micah Parrish in the second half. Yeah, dumb foul, an angry foul. He gets assessed a flagrant for pushing someone in the chest. No contact to the head or face. I don't know. I'm not official. Seems a little odd, but that's fine. Regardless, that could have been a spark for Ohio State. And there was no spark. And I don't need Jake Diebler to get a technical in this one, and I'll explain why actually in this next takeaway. But man, there's no energy in this game. Ohio State didn't really look like it really cared to be there, and that's a problem. That makes it really hard to win games. So Ohio State came out flat in this one for sure. The fourth takeaway, fouls lost this team the game. That is a fact, but this game wasn't really called unfairly. Everyone looking at Texas A&M having 24 fouls, or Ohio State having 24 fouls committed, Texas A&M having 40 free throws attempted, but Ohio State only committed 3 more fouls than Texas A&M. Texas A&M committed 24 fouls on this one. Ohio State committed 21. The biggest difference here was that Texas A&M drew 14 shooting fouls. That stat, courtesy of CBB Analytics. So many crazy in-depth stats you can find on cbbanalytics.com. Use code SHOT to get an entire month free when you sign up. 14 shooting fouls drawn by Texas A&M. Ohio State only drew 6. So they had less than half shooting fouls drawn, and no player on Ohio State had more than 1. Would you like it if Bruce Thornton drew a couple more shooting fouls in this one? Sure, of course. But this was a pretty closely called game. Everyone complaining about Ohio State fouling. Well, Texas A&M only had 3 less fouls, and the reason Texas A&M got to the free throw line so much was because A&M kept getting fouled when they were shooting, and Ohio State couldn't figure out how to do that. And you can say, yeah, all you had to do was, it was like I think the Illinois game last year where Terrence Shannon Jr. could, in the Big Ten tournament game, he could just flail himself at the rim and he would leave his body to the mercy of the officials and the whistle would be blown, and that's that. But I mean, you've got to be in a situation in which fouls are being called at such an odd rate for one team where you can be okay with getting mad and be okay with Jake Diebler wanting to get a technical foul. There was no point in this one. And there's also a reason that you didn't really see him get all that animated in this game, because he looked more disappointed in his players for committing a foul a lot of times than he was upset with officials. And when you're at a -3 foul disparity, that's not enough. It's not enough to warrant getting a technical foul. And guess what? If you do, you know what that's going to do? It's just going to annoy the officials. It's not going to send a message to anyone because they're going to continue to maintain the fact that this game is actually being called pretty evenly. At sometimes, did Texas A&M have more of a disparity? Yeah, sure. But, you know, I don't know if anyone was really clamoring for Jake Diebler to get teed up in this one. It was a -3 foul disparity. That's not a huge deal. This game was lost by Ohio State because it couldn't stop fouling, and because it couldn't stop fouling at the absolute worst times, which is when Texas A&M was trying to get a shot up, usually in the paint. So this game wasn't called unfairly. Let's hear at the Views from the Shot podcast, we're not going to enhance the narrative that this was an unfair game for Ohio State. It wasn't. Fouls called on each side. Ohio State just had more untimely fouls. Another takeaway, Jake Diebler tried everything. We know coming into this season that this was going to be a 3-guard starting lineup. Micah Parrish is the 3-guard, the technically, I guess, the 3-man and the small forward, whatever you want to call him, but he's really a guard. And this Jake Diebler system is going to be one that runs up and down the floor, shoots a lot of threes, plays with a lot of tempo. And in this one, Jake Diebler kind of went back to the Chris Holtman roots, where toward the end of the first half, you see a Jake Diebler coach team, mind you, a Jake Diebler coach team playing Evan Mahaffey, Devin Royal, and Sean Stewart. And Aaron Bradshaw was mixed in there as well, subbing in for one of those players, I believe. And you saw the same in the second half as well for a couple minutes, where we're not seeing 3 guards. We're actually seeing 3 postmen. Say what you want about Evan Mahaffey. He's a forward. I'm not a fan of Evan Mahaffey driving to the basket and attempting a layup. We'll talk about that in a second as well. But Jake Diebler tried everything. He tried everything. I don't think Bruce Thornton got as many manufactured touches as he should have in this one. But at the end of the day, the fact is this: Ohio State was not ready to win a matchup like this yet. Maybe in November, late November, maybe all of a sudden they will be. Maybe it will take until February. But right now, this front court isn't good enough. And there was not going to be a rotation that worked for Ohio State and Jake Diebler tonight to where they can win a game. We have a six takeaway after a sip. Oh boy. And I hate that all of these takeaways are majorly negative, but that's just how it has to go tonight. Oh, shot quality. Shot quality in this game felt like we just got Jake Diebler, right? Like we were the Youngstown State Penguins and Texas A&M was Ohio State. The shots that were had in this one were awful. We saw Devin Royal airball a 3 in the first half. We saw Evan Mahaffey clank a driving layup where he started from the 3-point line and just said, I'ma do it. Miss. Sean Stewart missed a driving runner as well. All these shots, are these shots that you want? Do you really want Devin Royal taking 3-pointers? And I get, let's do some research here, courtesy of CBB Analytics. I would like to see a game by game breakdown of the only Devin Royal. So Devin Royal in the game against Texas, he scored 16 points. He had a great game. Or sorry, he had 15 points, I believe. I'm just looking for. Oh, this is a Texas versus. Sorry, I really have to apologize here. This is what happens sometimes when you do this just off the cuff. Okay, here we go. So against Texas, he had 16 points from the 3-point line. He is 2 of 4. Since then, he is 0 of 5, 0 of 2 against Youngstown State, and 0 of 3 against Texas A&M. I'm sorry, Texas. That game against Texas was great for Devin Royal. I'm not here for Devin Royal to consistently be shooting 2 to 3 to 4 3-pointers in a game. That's not his strength. He shot somewhere between 12 and 20%. I don't remember the exact number, maybe 21%. I don't remember the exact number last year. He was not a good 3-point shooter last year. You're not just going to jump to 33% in one season. That wasn't his calling card as well over in Pickerington in high school. So that's not what I'm looking for. I'm sorry. I'm not looking for Evan Mahaffey at a time where you have 3 forwards on the floor. I'm not looking for Evan Mahaffey to drive to the rim and try to make a layup. I'm not there for that. Bruce Thornton was 3 of 6 from the field. The only problem with that is that he was only 3 of 6 from the field. Bruce Thornton should not be getting 6 free throw attempt or field goal attempts in a game. Free throw attempts, that's fine. Let's also take a look now. How many players shot more field goals in this game than Bruce Thornton? I don't know the answer to this. I'm curious, just like hopefully you are. Meechie Johnson, that makes sense. Micah Parrish. Do you want Micah Parrish realistically shooting 4 more attempts from the field than Bruce Thornton? Do you want Aaron Bradshaw taking 4 more than Bruce Thornton? No. Do you want Devin Royal taking 2 more? No. Do you want John Mobley Jr. taking 1 more? Maybe. Sean Stewart had 3 less than Bruce Thornton. You're fine with that. Quez Clever had 2 less. Can't have so many players shooting more than Bruce Thornton in a game. He needed more manufactured touches. I would argue that for sure. But overall, shot quality not there. Michi Johnson, he just can't consistently find it yet. 2 of 8 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3. This was my concern. He's always been a volume shooter. The hope for him was that he comes to Ohio State, there's less pressure on him, and he's going to shoot better. Early returns, not indicating that. Devin Royal, 2 of 8 from the field. John Mobley Jr., 3 of 7. You feel like both of those players in this one just couldn't find the flow of the game, I feel like. And it showed when you go 2 of 8 from the field. Micah Parrish, Quez Glover consistently took shots in this one from the short corner, pull up contested jumpers. Granted, some went in, but just not good shot quality in this one. And that, my friends, is how you shoot below 34% from the field over the course of an entire game. It's not good enough. Texas A&M was 39% from the field. They were 39% from 3. They actually shot pretty well in this one, especially from deep. Ohio State did not. Shot quality was not good. That's how you lose a game. All right, I've got one more takeaway here, and then I think we can pack it up and go watch Ohio State take on Northwestern if you're into those types of things. Look, if you care about a number next to Ohio State's name, you care simply about the wrong things. First of all, the thing you need to understand about the AP poll is that those people who vote are not like you and I. They don't eat, sleep, breathe, drink, soak in college basketball. You at least love Ohio State basketball. You probably are really excited for other game, Wisconsin, Arizona that happened last night, and Purdue, Alabama. And you have watched Michigan State take on Kansas or Duke, whoever they played in the Champions Classic, and lost. Come on, Michigan State. Got to be better in that Champions Classic. But overall, you understand the landscape of the sport. Sorry, I had to itch my leg there. The voters, they don't. They are box score scanners. That is who they are. They don't watch these games. Many of them didn't watch a second of Ohio State against Texas A&M. They woke up, they saw the score, and they said, well, I'm not going to vote for Ohio State this week to be in my top 25. That's how it goes. So, that said, let's not care. We need to do this exercise, okay? We just need to do it. College basketball, this is what happened. I could pause. I absolutely could pause, but I won't. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the top 25 in the AP, and then we're going to look at KenPom rankings. And you can be for or against KenPom, but can we just make an agreement now? Can we handshake on this? If you're outside the top 40, let's just say top 40 in KenPom, you probably shouldn't be ranked. Well, guess what? Ole Miss is the number 25 team in the nation in the AP. They are 60 freaking first in KenPom. What are we doing? Rutgers, 24th in the nation. Rutgers is worse than Ole Miss. They're 66th in KenPom. Texas A&M, 23rd. Texas A&M in KenPom is 14th. Make that make sense. Are there some other teams here that we can hate on quickly? I wonder where Indiana is in KenPom. Yeah, nope, not Indiana State, please. How about just Indiana? Indiana, 39th in KenPom, and they're 16th in the AP poll. Stop paying attention to the AP poll. Stop getting mad about Ohio State getting a number next to its name, and then the next week they lose and they don't have a number next to it. Who gives a crap? I'm sorry. No one cares if you actually know ball, and you can either accept that or not and deal with the consequences. And the consequences are you're going to be mentally drained. This is a loss to an NCAA tournament team in Texas A&M, and not just like a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament, most likely a 5 seed or better should Texas A&M be this year. It's a very, very good SEC team in an extremely loaded conference. You lost to an NCAA tournament team. Big freaking deal. Don't do it in March. Don't do it in April. You do it in November, that happens. But a loss was bound to happen at some point this season. It doesn't mean that it's the second coming of Chris Holtmann. The front court needs to be better. The front court has been awful. The front court has not produced. Bruce Thornton, Michi Johnson did not handle the pressure all that well tonight. But at the end of the day, Ohio State will be unranked and it will have opportunities to go win games and go be ranked again. But if that's what you care about, this sport, I don't know. It might not really be for you. There's almost 400 teams in Division One. Actually, let's find out exactly how many numbers or how many teams there are, courtesy of KenPom. 364. There's 364 teams in Division One college basketball. Only 25 of them can be ranked. Let's do some math, shall we? You should be tuning out at this point. What are we doing here? That would be 6%. Round up. We can go to 7% of teams in Division One college basketball can be ranked. That's a small amount. Sorry. Ohio State won't be ranked next week. That is what it is. But the Buckeyes are going to get 3 bye games, 3 cupcakes. They went to the bakery. They said, I'll have an eclair. Go ahead and give me. I will take the classic cupcake and then go ahead and hand me a muffin with icing on top as well. And that's the next 3 games. And then it's Pitt. So the Buckeyes are going to have a chance to stack some wins here, fix some things, get into the flow of a game, feel really good, and then go play a good Pitt team on Black Friday. And that's what's next for Ohio State. We're going to continue to cover this team, win or lose, no matter what happens. I hope that today's episode could bring you a little bit of closure, not make you feel so bad about the loss, but also recognize that the worst and bad things in this game. Would remind you, if you made it this far through the show, please subscribe if you're on YouTube. Please like the video as well. I forgot to remind that again if you're watching on YouTube, but well. And if you're listening on pod, please subscribe as well. And a 5-star review goes a long way too. We'll keep on covering this Buckeye team coming up on Sunday evening. We will preview the upcoming week, the Buckeyes games, and then we will move on with our week and get ready for Ohio State to start a new winning streak. So the Buckeyes lose to Texas A&M. Is it good? No. Are there things to work on? Yes. Is it the end of the world? Also, no. Appreciate you listening to today's show more than you can ever understand. I'm going to shut up before you shut me off. Go Bucks.